Hi everybody, here we are at lesson 7 and we're going to be learning some cool stuff today. And for today's lesson, with the first part with the violin playing, the kids are going to need to have their own music stand because they're going to be reading from their books. But the first thing I'm going to teach them is about harmonics. And harmonics are just a cool sound, so I'm going to show them what that is. What you do is you just put your pinky, fourth finger, they know that's the fourth finger, right? And you just touch it very lightly in the very middle part of the string. So here's the open A, and here's the harmonic A. So you have to tell them that you can just barely touch it and not press it down, because what has to happen is the string has to vibrate on both sides of the finger to make that harmonic sound. So I'm going to ask them, what do you think that sounds like? So you can entertain their answers and see what they think. So today we're just going to find those. So just have them all. Everybody find your D harmonic, middle. We're going to call this the middle harmonic. Maybe 3 strokes. How about the G string middle harmonic? And of course the E harmonic. So you can kind of go around and help them if they're having trouble. You can just kind of move their finger over to the spot. In their private lesson, I usually put like a little yellow dot, smiley face, where the middle harmonic is. And then, after the middle harmonic, we're going to learn the high harmonic. And you know they've been plucking up there, right? So we're going to find that. And they're going to notice that it's way, way high. So here's middle. And here's high. And you're going to tell them, you know, it's not going to ring really pretty until you find the exact spot. So they have to find it exactly. And that's a little harder up there. And you know what, I wouldn't recommend really having them play anything together in harmonics. This is really new stuff, but they can enjoy the sound and you're going to help them refine that in their private lesson. Next thing we're going to do is, if all of the children, if you haven't had time to have all of the kids play their 8-beat composition solos, then you can take time out and do that now. But if they're all done, then you can skip to the next activity, which is going to be on page 12. So this is where the children need to open their books to page 12 for their rhythm duets. And so I'm going to ask, does anybody here know what a duet is? Of course, we've already made conscious, or we've talked about what solos are and what tutti is all together, about what's a duet. And usually somebody will come out, yes, that's when 2 players play together. So here on the page you're going to notice that there are 2 lines per system. So that means that the player who's playing the top line is going to be playing these notes, and then there's another player that's going to be playing this line, but they're all going to be playing it at the same time. So this is actually kind of a cool activity. So remember that this is reading. And so reading, remember, is cognitive, and so they're going to be having their eyes on the page. And hopefully, since we kind of introduced that a little bit, this is not just sight reading for them. They've already been practicing what these lines are, so they can make it from beginning to end without stopping. That will make this much more rewarding experience in the group class. So, anyway, but this is a first way to cultivate their ability to play in parts. So I'm going to need to have probably my keyboard percussion going on here, or you can do it with a drum, or you could strum open strings to keep a beat, but they need to hear a beat feeling to help them all stay together. I'm going to use my percussion here. It's about, looks like it's about 86. Let's see if we like it. I'm going to slow it down a little bit. Okay, that's an 84. You'll get the feeling of what feels right to make it the easiest for your kids, for your students. I'm going to turn it down a little bit. All right. So now what we're going to do, and you can look on your teacher's manual on page 23, which is where we are. Hopefully you are there too. And we're going to have a teacher-student. So I'll demonstrate how this is going to work. So they're going to play the top line on the A string, for instance. Okay, we'll see if we can make it from beginning to end. And then I'm going to add the second part myself and play that on a D string. So they are adjacent strings. They'll sound good that way. So they can see how that works. And after we've had the teacher and the students duet, and maybe I'll trade parts. Like, so now everybody play the bottom part while I play the top part. All right? So after they've experienced that, I think I can turn this off now. Since there's not two of me and I can't really demonstrate the duets. I can demonstrate the line. But you get the idea, I hope. So after the teacher and the students do the duets, then you're going to divide the class, okay, to play both parts, and you still have something that will have a beat feeling to it to help them stay together. And after they've succeeded with the whole class divided into parts, then you're going to say, does anybody think they can do it by themselves with a partner? So you're going to move to solo duets after you've found that they can succeed that way, and see if anybody looks like they're, and maybe you'll pair them up. Oh, Sally, you do it with Johnny over here, and let's see if you guys can do it together. And actually, I've had a really good experience with this page because they seem to feel like they're actually playing in an orchestra. You know, this is helping them get ready to play in a real orchestra, and it seems to be pretty rewarding, I've found, with the kids. So you probably won't get through all that whole page, maybe one or two of the lines, maybe just the first one. But this is a skill we're going to do this more than 1 week. So this is the introduction to it, and I think that they will be enjoyable for the kids. It doesn't hurt to not only have different strings on each part, but also to change the timbre. Like, for instance, you could have one part pizzicato while the other part plays arco. Or you could even, if you wanted to, you could have a percussion instrument playing one part while the other part plays arco or pizzicato. You can mix and match with that, whatever seems to be what your students need at the moment, just so they have that experience of being able to play in parts. And that's the end of our violin time for that day. So packing up the violins, putting them away, coming back for their singing part of the class. So they've all put their instruments away, and we're going to come back and we're going to sing Rocky Mountain. We worked on that last week, right? So, Rocky Mountain, Rocky Mountain, Rocky Mountain High. So they can just be there in front of you and they're going to sing the words of the song, and they're going to step the beat, okay? So, I'm not sure if we've done this before, but Rocky Mountain, Rocky Mountain, Rocky Mountain High. And after we've gone through this song while stepping the beat, I'm going to have them, okay, boys and girls, will you take one of your shoes off? Maybe I don't know if they've already taken both shoes off. You might have to just tell them to wear their shoes today on the carpet so we can do this exercise. So here we are. I'm going to take one shoe off. And I'm going to tell them to start. We're going to step and sing this song again, but I'm going to have them start with I'm going to have you step, starting with the foot that's got your shoe on. Okay, ready? So here we go. Rocky Mountain, Rocky Mountain, Rocky Mountain High, and so on. We go through the song. And then we're going to talk about how that felt. So how did that feel to you? Did it feel kind of like it's hard and soft, and you can also say it's strong and weak, strong and weak. So what we're going to do is just make conscious the fact that there are strong beats and there are weak beats. All right? So they can do this, and they can take both shoes off or put them back on again, but this is what we wanted to help them feel, strong and weak. And next, at the end of this little part in your singing class, you're just going to have them sit and demonstrate to you. We're going to put the strong beat on our knees and the weak beat on our shoulders. So now we're going to indicate the beat, the strong and the weak beat that way. So it'll be Rocky Mountain, Rocky Mountain, Rocky Mountain High, When you're on that rocky mountain, hang your head and cry, and so on. And next, I've got the rhythm, I'm going to put the rhythm of, let's see if you can guess what this is. Boys and girls, can you tell me what this song is? So they probably will guess that that is My, Me, Oh My, How I Love My Cherry Pie. And what we're going to do is we're going to find the strong and the weak beats on Cherry Pie. So the way I do that is I mark an accent. So here's an accent sign. My. So here's the strong beat, here's the weak beat. And they can hear that in this song. My, me, oh my, how I love my cherry pie. And you can have them indicate that with their knees and their shoulders. But here's how it looks. Right? So we need to know where the accent, where the strong beat is, so we know where to put the bar lines. So the bar line tells us which is the strong beat. So we're going to leave this empty because we're going to put something else here. But right here we're going to put a bar line, and they've already seen it in their books, but now you're going to explain the whole thing so that it makes sense to them. So here's the bar line. It goes ahead of the strong beat. And at the end, we know that the piece is finished by putting a double bar line. That tells us it's the end of the song. So boys and girls, how many beats are there in Cherry Pie in each? Well, and we call this space between the bar lines the measure, or the bar. Sometimes we call it the bar, sometimes we call it a measure. But how many beats are there in between bar lines here? 2, right? And so what we do at the beginning of the piece, we put what we call a meter sign. And we're going to put a 2 right here. And what that means is that there are 2 ta beats in each measure in Cherry Pie, right? All right, so now, as we're going to go back to Rocky Mountain again, and we are going to relate bar lines to downbeats. So how do I draw a bar line? Well, you start from the top usually and go down, right? Well, boys and girls, that's exactly how we conduct. I think I better put one shoe on or one shoe off so I can stay level. Okay, so we're going to have them, I'm going to show them this is how conductors conduct. It's just like they're drawing bar lines. Rocky Mountain, Rocky Mountain, Rocky Mountain High. So can you tell which way am I going on the first beat? It's down, right? And so we call that a downbeat. Okay? And then what happens on the weak beat? We're going up, right? So that's the downbeat. So we're all going to practice that, right? And for that, we're not going to mess with anything complex. We're just going to keep it simple, down and up, so they can all experience conducting in 2 meter. So here we go. Everybody's going to conduct Rocky Mountain in 2 while we're singing it. And Rocky Mountain, Rocky Mountain, Rocky Mountain High, and so on all the way to the end of the song. And I say, does anybody here want to conduct the singing? So I'll trade places with them and invite any of the students who want to do that. You could give everybody a turn, or some who want to. You can decide how much time you've got to do that. And so, and while they're doing that, the kids can be stepping the beat actually too, while they're singing it. And we've got a solo conductor up here. And I'm going to say, did anybody discover anything? Are there any notes that are longer than tas? Yep, yeah, some notes are longer than a ta beat. So which words are longer? Rocky Mountain High. Okay, how much longer? Well, it's 2 beats, right? So, and I'm going to show them there's a special 2-beat movement that I can use to help indicate space, the length of that note. So if I were to tap it in my hand, it would be Rocky Mountain, Rocky Mountain, Rocky Mountain High. That way it kind of occupies that much time in there. So we will try that. And so we're going to find out, so how many of those are there in the song? Well, they'll discover that there are 4. And it's always on that last word of each phrase. Hi, hang your head and cry. They'll figure all that out very quickly. They're going to find out. So what if we put, so that we could remember that last 2 beats, what if we sing the words and we substitute the word to? It's kind of hilarious, and I think they'll enjoy that. So if we sing it like this: Rocky Mountain, Rocky Mountain, Rocky Mountain too. When you're on that Rocky Mountain, hang your head and do, 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 remember to, do, 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 remember to. And after they've done that once, they will remember it because it is actually kind of funny. So boys and girls, how would I write a 2? Well, how many beats did we decide? We decided it's 2 beats, right? So here we've got a beat here, which is a ta beat. And if we tie those 2 notes together with this sign, it's called a tie, that makes that last for that long. It makes that it lasts for that many beats. Or, it looks kind of like a smiley face, doesn't it? Anyway, so we can tie those 2 notes together and it will last for 2 beats. Or, I can do this. And musicians call this a half note. That's the way we would write a 2 beat. Alright, and so what we're going to do next is I am going to give them the worksheet, which you have in your book. Looks like this. And the children are going to write in the missing half notes here. But I also want them to write a meter sign in front. And then I want them to put the accents over the strong beat. You can have them do more than just filling in the 2s on the Rocky Mountain. But today is the first day that they have learned about half notes, and when we encounter them, we'll usually just say 2 when we're counting the beats in the rhythm language. All right. So there's the worksheets, and if you still got time left in your class, they can go to their beat books. Remember the beat books? They're here, and now for the songs that they've got written in there, they can add bar lines and a meter sign in their beat books anytime that's available. And there's one other really cool listening opportunity, and that is in the Hall of the Mountain King by Edvard Grieg. That is, they'll be able to hear, well, if you play it for them, they'll figure it out. You're not going to really tell them, for you want them to be able to discover it. So bum 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 2. And if they're a little bit older, they'll probably get that. But after they've listened for those first 2 statements, you're going to see if they can, as a class, help you get the rhythm of that on the board and discover the 2 at the end. And that's the end of our class for today. Okay, so let's look at the private lesson pages. This is on page 26 of your teacher's manual. And now, page 13 is just kind of a review of what we just did in our group class. So, and just this first part, you can see that, and to fill in the blank is, of course, Rocky Mountain. They just fill in the title of that song. So you can have them quickly do that in their private lesson. Here is a little review of our discussion about tied quarter notes are the same as the half note. That's what musicians call it, a half note or a 2. And then here they have the opportunity to write the 2 again here. I'd save this part of it till after they've learned Shohin Sho, which is going to be another song a little bit later. So you could just have them, they could just do that in their private lesson. It wouldn't take but just a minute. It's not anything they have to do with homework or anything. But now on page 14, here is Rocky Mountain, all written out. And this is now what we're going to do in their private lesson first is teaching the extended bow stroke. So I like to approach that, you know, because up till now they've just been doing little bows in the middle, right? Either short taws and smooth TTs and just kind of staying here. But we're going to plan the bow here, and we're going to make it travel. So how would I play it too? So what we're going to do is we're going to travel with the bow. So if I'm here towards the frog with Rocky Mountain, so I mean, when you are playing an extended bow stroke, there's a lot going on motion-wise. And I'll ask them, say, well, what's a city you could travel? Maybe if they live in your town and they want to travel to the next town over, it takes a little bit you can either walk there, you can take a car, but you have to travel from here to here. So what I'm doing is I'm traveling from the frog of my bow to the tip of my bow. So that helps them to kind of feel that it's got to move out there. And I will need to physically help them form that arch. This is where in-person lessons are really important. Hard to teach this online. We've all tried, however, okay? But making that arch that goes out, so our goal is to make that bow go parallel with the bridge and straight. And in order to make that happen, the arm has to make a curve. So, but you'll help them do that with some guidance physically. And then, now I'm going to stay there, out there at the tip, and I'm going to kind of feel a little bit of stickiness out there. And the important thing about the up bow stroke is bending. So right away, I want to make sure that they are feeling their wrist bend and leading. So you might have to just grab them and say, and bend. In fact, you could even hang your head and bend. You can substitute the word bend there instead of to, and that will help them to remember. The next part, we're going to use the lower half of the bow, so I'm going to tell them about that lower half. Whole bow, and then I'm going to do the upper half. So, the extended bow stroke, there's a lot going on with the technique of the instrument, especially bowing technique. Right? Okay, so you want to spend a little bit of time. That will be a big deal in the private lesson before the kids play this together in their group class. And you'll be talking about whole bows and what to do to make a bow go straight from now on, as you teachers probably already well know that. On page 15, it's just a visual that stands for the harmonics. And so in their private lesson, I didn't really have them look at it in their books in the group class, but in their private lesson you can see, remember when we were talking about harmonics? That open string is kind of like ground level. That's our lowest sound. And then I put these hot air balloons in here because we can kind of liken the height of the pitch to where the hot air balloon is kind of in the middle of the sky or kind of high up in the sky. Here's the middle harmonic, here's the high harmonic. And again, you can give them some assignments with some rhythm patterns, or just, this is mostly just finding the harmonics page. That's going to take some practice, and you can have them do it however you want and just see if they can find the middle and high harmonics on all four strings. And they're going to see that it's very much like the left hand plucking, especially the G string, how you have to bring the arm around. All right, that's the end of lesson 7.